Shortly after World War I, the German Weimar Republic of the 1920s was a center for artistic innovation, great creativity, and considerable experimentation in all aspects of culture. Despite international turmoil, the Dawes Plan helped energize the economy after the war, and the newly implemented republic government led to a sense of peace. The unprecedented freedom and widespread latitude for varieties of cultural expression led to an explosion of artistic production. After experiencing the social, economic, and political upheaval during World War I, European artists began to reject the unembellished, detailed aspects of realism in favor of various types of expressionism, particularly pieces that convey emotion over reality, use strong colors, and incorporate exaggerated brushstrokes. During this era of artistic innovation, World War I veteran Adolf Hitler was also inspired to create art of his own. Opposed to the popular movement of Expressionism, he mostly painted still life pictures and lifeless scenery, eventually leaving behind over 2,000 pieces of his personal work. His style was reminiscent of the Rococo art period of the 17th and 18th centuries, where artists like Jean-Ante Watteau and Francois Boucher played with pale colors and depicted dreamy scenes. Hitler wished to become a professional artist, but realized the impossibility of this after being rejected from the Academy of Fine Arts Vienna twice. Hitler continued to paint what he considered the grandest kind of art, consisting of romantic but mundane pictures, until his World War I military distinction gave him enough power in 1933 to become Chancellor and begin the purification of culture, beginning with the arts. Although the Nazis' eradication of degenerate art during World War II initially suppressed the expression of individual perspectives and cultural beliefs, the unintentional byproduct of their actions led to the undermining of their own goal. Instead of eliminating degenerate art, the Nazis began a worldwide revolution in art appreciation, especially for the very artists who were oppressed. The limiting of culture and self-expression began after the undoing of the Treaty of Versailles. Just as Hitler attempted to cleanse the population of Germany by persecuting the people he considered racially inferior or degenerate, he sifted through art in order to save Germany from what he believed was tragedy. To set an example for the German people, he first showcased works like Brecker's Decathlon Athlete, Vissel's Forster, and Zeigel's Girl with Two Fruit Baskets in the Great German Art Exhibition of 1937. Pieces he praised reflected his own style of art, serene and full of wonder, conventionally beautiful and heroic. He preferred art styles that played by the book and agreed with his ideals of a perfect race and a perfect world. Many featured pieces were of physically perfect humans and peaceful images. To demonstrate his disgust for more morbid themes and eccentric techniques, he held the Degenerate Art exhibition afterwards to publicly mock confiscated degenerate art. Hitler described degenerate art as pieces that insulted strong German feelings of nationalism, destroyed or confused natural form, or simply revealed an absence of adequate manual and artistic skill. Pieces included Otto Dix's War Cripples, which depicted horribly maimed and disfigured war veterans, as well as a new style of drawing, and a self-portrait filled with imperfections like wrinkles and discolorations by Alfred Losch Wattler. Artworks were plastered on walls alongside insulting words such as deliberate sabotage of national defense, nature as seen by the sick mind, and the ideal, cretin and whore. These pieces consisted of styles and themes Hitler believed to be disruptive to the Aryan culture he prioritized, such as tragedy, cubism, abstract art, and other modern art styles. Hoping to glorify the classical style of art, Hitler began officially confiscating degenerate or valuable art into his home country after the 1938 Anschluss, the annexation of Austria into the German Reich. Whatever suited his classical tastes, he sold to foreign art investors to gain funds for the Nazi cause. Whatever he deemed degenerate, he hid from society's eye. Without the diversity of themes and abundance of art, the remaining pieces, all classical, received the spotlight. The collection of Vienna's prominent Jewish families were the first to be taken by the Nazis. In the years leading up to 1945, over 1/5 of all art in Europe was in Nazi possession. Around 6,500,000 pieces were confiscated from the Louvre, Parisian museums, and other sources. Some of the most famous pieces considered degenerate include the Madonna of Bruges by Michelangelo, the Astronomer by Johannes Vermeer, the Amber Room by Andreas Schlechter, and the Portrait of Dr. Gachet by Vincent van Gogh. The looting and locking of these pieces indicated the start of the attempt of cultural eradication. The Nazis looting art held far more significance than just stealing from the enemy in a war. The theft of art from museums, private individuals, and archives was highly calculated and well organized by the criminal regime of the Third Reich. Art is intended to connect people of different backgrounds in a method that transcends national boundaries. It communicates across the barriers of language and social class, and conveys ideas when words are insufficient. Carl Schmidt-Rottluff's Girl Combing reveals aspects of his worldview, perspective on human vanity, and distorted self-image without using a single word. Art can often be a vehicle for political and social reform through the messages depicted in a piece. Without this opportunity for self-expression, Hitler effectively hindered cultural appreciation and collectivism. There were no more critiques or praises, no more art exhibitions, no more trading. Even more than that, he completely shut down artistic manifestations of feelings towards prominent issues. By preventing artists that disagreed with his perspective on life from expressing their emotions, he essentially began the eradication of a sense of self and identity. He prevented artists from expressing their anguish over the war and widespread human suffering. Pieces like Francis Bacon's 3 Studies for Figures at the Base of a Crucifixion and Jean Dubuffet's The Cow with a Subtile Nose, both created after World War II, are prime examples of pieces containing repressed emotions during that time period. Even with the severity of this theft, the peak in sales of confiscated works and stolen masterpieces at the time, intended to help fund the Nazi war effort, led to a boom for the global art market. Many works, whether taken by force from collectors or removed from galleries, made their way to American museums and collectors, as well as all across Europe. People began to investigate the situation of Nazi Germany because of the massive influx of immigrants artists fleeing and the sheer number of pieces coming out of Germany. They indicated the undergoing of a truly horrific event. The migration of artists and their work from one continent to many others gave outsiders an in-depth and intimate understanding of arguably the world's most extreme art heist. People could understand simply how severe the persecution in Hitler's empire was. When some even looked to suicide as a means of escaping, foreign nations could understand firsthand the extent to which Germany tortured its people. With this appalling experience, the world gained the experience necessary to resist this type of cultural eradication again. Additionally, since Nazis looted the rare, culturally rich pieces of museums and collector families and unintentionally dispersed them all over the world, all people were given the opportunity to view pieces like Klimt's Portrait of Adelaide Bloch-Bauer I. This greater access allowed people of all cultures and backgrounds to experience the emotions artists were trying to convey. The spread of art does not justify the Nazis raiding homes and museums for national treasures, but artists made the best of the Nazis' missteps by spreading their influence internationally. Even smaller artists like Gabe, Van Doesburg, and Miro obtained their much-deserved recognition. The celebration of artists of all kinds brought new perspective to the world, which may have otherwise been buried with the demise of Hitler's Germany. Although the majority of the art has been recovered, displayed, and returned to the original countries, there is still much more to be found. Nazi-looted art is still regularly restituted. High-profile cases in the past years include an Oskar Kokoschka portrait, returned to the heirs of the German Jewish dealer Alfred Flechtheim by Sweden's Moderna Museet. Many families are still seeking pictures stolen from previous generations in what has been called the greatest art heist of all time. Even with the unintentional help of the Nazis, families are still struggling to find their stolen heirlooms. The restitution of looted art pieces is a continual process, but the hope of the world is returning the emotionally filled work to the rightful owners.